The human mind is limitlessly complex, and that implies new examination comes out each day and enlightens why we are how we are, and keeping in mind that a few mental examinations give us genuinely trite brain research realities. For instance, one College of Rochester concentrate on affirmed that prepare for it, individuals are more joyful toward the end of the week. Others are genuinely illuminating. In this, we've gathered together the brain science realities that make sense of human instinct, and very well could reveal some insight into a couple of the examples you notice in yourself, as well as other people. From why you think food tastes better when another person comes to why you generally see human countenances in lifeless things. These are the staggering brain research realities that make sense of everything. On the off chance that we have an arrangement B, our arrangement and is less inclined to work. From time to time, it damages to be ready. In a progression of tests from the College of Pennsylvania, scientists found that when volunteers pondered a fallback prior to beginning an undertaking, they did more terrible than the people who hadn't contemplated an arrangement B. In addition, when they understood they had choices, their inspiration for succeeding the initial time around dropped. The scientists stress that reasoning ahead is really smart. However, you may find actual success, assuming you keep those plans dubious. Dread can feel better in the event that we're not exactly at serious risk. Not every person loves startling films, but rather for individuals who do. There are a couple of speculations regarding the reason why the vitally one coming down to chemicals. While you're watching a startling film or strolling through a spooky place, you get all the adrenaline, endorphins, and dopamine from a survival reaction. Yet regardless of how frightened you feel, your cerebrum perceives that you're not exactly in harm's way, so you get that normal high without the gamble. Getting a yawn could assist us with holding. For what reason do you yawn when another person does, regardless of whether you're not worn out? There are a couple of speculations about why yawning is infectious, yet one of the main ones is that it shows compassion. Individuals who are more averse to show compassion, for example, little children who haven't learned it yet, or youngsters with chemical imbalance, are likewise less inclined to yawn in response to another person's. We care more about a solitary individual than about enormous misfortunes. In one more College of Pennsylvania study, one gathering found out about a young lady who was starving to death, one more found out around millions passing on from hunger, and a third found out about the two circumstances. Individuals gave over 2 times as much cash while catching wind of the young lady than while hearing the measurements, and, surprisingly, the gathering who'd heard her story with regards to the greater misfortune gave less. Clinicians imagine that we're wired to help the individual before us, yet when the issue feels too large, we figure our little part isn't doing a lot. Starting points and closures are simpler to recall than middles. At the point when individuals are approached to review things from a rundown, they're probably going to consider things from the end, or all along. Found one review distributed in Boondocks of Human Neuroscience. The center gets tangled, which could likewise play into why you recall your manager wrapping up her show. Yet not such a great amount about the center. It takes 5 positive things to offset a solitary negative thing. Our cerebrums have something many refer to as a pessimism predisposition that causes us to recollect terrible news more than great, which is the reason you rapidly fail to remember that your colleague praised your show, yet continue to harp on the way that a youngster at the bus station offended your shoes. To feel adjusted, we want basically a 5-to-1 proportion of good to terrible in our lives. Food tastes better when another person makes it. At any point can't help thinking about why that sandwich from the takeout spot down the road tastes better compared to the ones you make at home, regardless of whether you utilize similar fixings. One review distributed in the Diary Science found that when you make yourself a feast, you're around it so lengthy that it feels less thrilling when you really dive in, and that, hence, diminishes your pleasure. We'd prefer realize something awful is coming than not know what's in store. Scientists who distributed their work in the diary Nature have viewed that as it's less upsetting to realize something negative is going to occur, e.g., there's no way we'll get to a gathering on time, than when we don't have the foggiest idea how the situation work out, e.g., we may be on time, all things considered. That is on the grounds that the piece of our cerebrum that predicts results, whether fortunate or unfortunate, is most dynamic when it doesn't have the foggiest idea what's in store. If hurrying up will assist us with beating traffic, we'll go through that pressure, rather than simply tolerating that we'll need to concoct a fair reason when, not on the off chance that we're late. We generally attempt to return some help. It's not simply great habits. The rule of correspondence recommends that we're customized to need to help somebody who's helped us. It likely created in light of the fact that, to keep society working without a hitch, individuals need to help each other out. Stores and some pseudo-nemesis like to utilize this against you, offering gifts with the expectation that you'll go through some money. At the point when one rule appears to be excessively severe, we need to break more. Therapists have concentrated on a peculiarity called reactance. When individuals see specific opportunities being removed, they disrupt that guideline, yet they equal the initial investment, more than they in any case would have, with an end goal to recover their opportunity. This could be one of the most mind-blowing brain science realities to make sense of why a teen who can't involve his telephone in class will bite gum while subtly messaging. Our number one subject is ourselves. Try not to fault your egotistical sibling for discussing himself. It's simply how his cerebrum is wired. The prize places of our cerebrums light up more while we're discussing ourselves than while we're discussing others, as per a Harvard study. There's an explanation we need to crush charming things. It's so charming, I just was to smoosh it until it pops. That is called charm hostility, and individuals who feel it would truly prefer not to pulverize that lovable little dog. Research distributed in Boondocks in Conduct Neuroscience found that while we're feeling overpowered by good feelings as we do while taking a gander at an unimaginably charming child creature, a tad of hostility assists us with offsetting that high. Our minds attempt to give exhausting addresses seriously fascinating. College of Glasgow analysts found that similarly that we hear voices in our minds when we read resoundingly. Our cerebrums, moreover, talk over exhausting addresses. In the event that somebody is talking drearily, we'll subliminally make it more clear in our minds. Certain individuals appreciate seeing resentment in others. In one College of Michigan review, individuals with high testosterone recollected data better when it was matched with a furious face than an unbiased one or no face, demonstrating they found the irate glare fulfilling. The scientists said it could imply that specific individuals appreciate making another person frown at them, as lengthy the glimmer of outrage doesn't keep sufficiently going to be a danger, which could be the reason that person in the workplace won't relinquish that dumb joke to your detriment. We consequently rethink ourselves when others clash. In a well-known 1950s Explorer, undergrads were approached to bring up which of three lines was a similar length as a fourth. At the point when they heard other people, who were in on the examination, pick a response that was plainly off base, the members took cues from them and offered that equivalent wrong response. We aren't as great at performing various tasks as we naturally suspect we are. Research distributed in the Diary of Trial Brain Science shows that in any event, when you believe you're completing two things on the double, what you're really doing is exchanging rapidly between the two errands. You're actually zeroing in on each in turn. No big surprise it's so difficult to pay attention to your accomplice while looking at Instagram. The fact that what's to come is brilliant makes us convinced. Doesn't make any difference assuming you like where you're at the present moment or not. The vast majority of us have a positive thinking predisposition that persuades us the future will be preferable over the present, as per research in flow science. We expect we'll ascend in our professions, never get separated, bring up darlings of youngsters, and live to a mature age. Those could not all be sensible for everybody, except there's no mischief in dreaming. We inadvertently accept what we need to accept. People are casualty to something many refer to as tendency to look for predictable feedback, the propensity to decipher realities in a way that affirms what we as of now accept. So regardless of the number of realities you that toss at your uncle attempting to influence his political conclusions, there's a decent opportunity he won't move. It's one of the brain science realities you'll simply need to acknowledge that you can't change. Our minds maintain that we should be sluggish. Developmentally talking, saving energy is something to be thankful for. When food was scant, our predecessors actually must be geared up for any eventuality. Sadly for anybody watching their weight, that actually turns out as expected today. A little report distributed in Current Science found that while strolling on a treadmill, volunteers would naturally change their stride to consume less calories. Being desolate is terrible for our well-being. Specialists found that the less companions an individual has, the more significant levels of the blood-thickening protein fibrinogen. The impact major areas of strength for was the point that having 15 companions rather than 25 was comparably awful as smoking. You're customized to cherish the music you paid attention to in secondary school the most. The music we like provides us with a hit of dopamine and other lighthearted synthetics, and that is significantly more grounded when we're youthful on the grounds that our minds are creating. From around age 12 to 22, everything feels more significant. So we will quite often stress those years the most and cling to those melodic recollections. Scientists have uncovered proof that recommends our minds tie us to the music we heard as youngsters more firmly than anything we'll hear as grown-ups. An association that doesn't debilitate as we age, composes imprint Joseph Harsh for record. Recollections are more similar to sorted-out pictures than exact previews. Indeed, even individuals with the best recollections on the planet can have misleading recollections. The mind by and large recalls the significance of what occurs. Then, at that point, fills in the rest some of the time mistakenly, which makes sense of why you demand your better half was with you at a party quite a while back, despite the fact that she's resolved she wasn't. There's an explanation that specific variety mixes are no picnic for your eyes. At the point when you see radiant blue and red right close to one another, your cerebrum thinks the red is nearer than the blue, making you go for all intents and purposes cross-looked at. Same goes for different mixes, similar to red and green. Placing data in scaled-down pieces assists us with recollecting. Your transient memory can unfortunately clutch a limited amount a lot of data all at once, except if you attempt one of the straightforward ways of working on your memory, which is the reason you use piecing to recall long numbers. For example, in the event that you attempt to retain this number, 90,655,372, you presumably normally thought something like 906,553,72. You recall things better on the off chance that you've been tried on them. Apologies, kids. One of the most helpful brain science realities is that trying truly takes care of business. One review distributed in the diary Mental Science observed that individuals are bound to store data in their drawn-out memory, assuming they've been tried on the data. The more, the better, than if they simply study and don't have to recollect it immediately. A lot of decision can become incapacitating. The entirety catch-22 of decision hypothesis has been condemned by specialists who say it hasn't been displayed in that frame of mind. There is some proof that our cerebrums favor a couple of choices to a ton. At the point when singles at speed dating occasions met more individuals and those individuals had greater variety in factors like age and occupation, the members picked less possible dates. At the point when you feel like you're coming up short on something, like cash, you fixate on it. Analysts have observed that the cerebrum is delicate to shortage the inclination that you're missing something you want. At the point when ranchers have a decent income, for example, they will quite often be preferable organizers over when they're tight for cash, one review found. While you're feeling desperate, you could require more suggestions to cover bills or take care of errands. In light of the fact that your brain is too occupied to even consider recalling, we continue to accept things, in any event, when we realize they're off base. Specialists in a single science concentrate on took care of workers' misleading data. Then, at that point, after 7 days uncovered that the realities weren't correct, despite the fact that the workers knew reality. Presently, MRI filters showed that they actually trusted the falsehood about a fraction of the time. It's one of the brain science realities to realize that could make you more intelligent. We search for human countenances, even in lifeless things. The majority of us haven't seen Jesus in that frame of mind of toast. Yet we've all seen silly faces apparently gazing back at us from lifeless things. That is called pareidolia, and researchers think it comes from the way that perceiving faces is so critical to public activity that our cerebrums would prefer to find one where there isn't one than miss a genuine face. We'd prefer slant current realities than change our convictions about individuals. People disdain mental discord. When a reality counters something we accept, that is the reason when we hear that a friend or family member accomplished something wrong or trash, We subvert how terrible it truly was, or we let ourselves know that science overstates when a review lets us know we truly need to move more. Individuals ascend to our exclusive standards and don't rise, assuming that we have low ones. You might have known about the impact of self-fulfilling prophecy previously. Essentially, we truly do well when others figure we will. And we don't do well when individuals anticipate that we should come up short. The thought came from a well-known 1960s concentrate on, in which specialists let educators know that specific understudies, picked aimlessly, had high potential in light of level of intelligence tests. Those understudies did for sure proceed to be successful people on account of their educators' assumptions in them. Web-based entertainment is mentally intended to be habit-forming. Let yourself know you'd simply rapidly look at your Facebook warnings, and after 15 minutes you're actually looking over. You're in good company. Some portion of that has to do with boundless parchment. When you can remain on the site without really communicating and clicking, your cerebrum doesn't get that stop prompt. We can persuade ourselves an exhausting errand was fun on the off chance that we weren't compensated. Here is one more extraordinary illustration of mental cacophony. Volunteers in a single brain science of learning and inspiration study did an exhausting errand, then were paid either $1 or $20 to persuade somebody that it was really fascinating. The ones who were paid $20 realized the reason why they'd lied. They got a respectable prize, yet thought it was exhausting. Yet the ones who'd just gotten a buck truly persuaded themselves it truly was fun, on the grounds that their cerebrums didn't have a valid justification to think they'd been lying. Power makes individuals care less about others. You've presumably found out about the renowned Stanford jail try. Boost. Undergrads were haphazardly relegated to be either a detainee or watchman in a phony jail, and the monitors began pestering the detainees. It got so terrible that the 14-day Explorer was dropped following 6 days. That is outrageous. However, later examinations have found that when individuals feel like they're in a power position, they become more regrettable at passing judgment on an individual's sentiments in light of their looks, showing a deficiency of sympathy. To our progenitors, sugar and fat were beneficial things. Why, gracious why? Shows improvement over vegetables. Indeed, on the grounds that that is the manner by which we were prepared for a long period of time. For our predecessors, getting a speedy hit of energy from sugar and afterward putting away it as fat, or eating a lot of fat to keep our bodies and minds powered, implied more energy over the long haul. In any case, now that sweet, greasy food varieties are simple, excessively simple, to eat and gorge, our bodies are as yet prepared to store that fat, despite the fact that we don't require it. Our mind doesn't think long-haul cutoff times are so significant. Essentially, everybody has procrastinated at some time, despite the fact that we know intelligently that it would check out to get a leap on our charges than to turn on Netflix. We favor critical, immaterial undertakings, since we realize we'll have the option to finish them. There's likewise proof that when we see the cutoff time approaching regarding days, instead of months or years, since we feel more associated with a step-by-step sitting back, we release our ethics when a power tells us to. It's one of the most seasoned brain research realities in the books. During the 1960s, Yale clinician Stanley